Alright, we are doing the flushing of the beaver tail that you may have watched the skinning on. So how I do it is, I have my beaver tail half here. There's the fat that's left on it. And I have a very sharp ulu here. This one, if you're interested, you could use a regular beaver knife, like you would use to skin or flush a beaver over your knee. You could also, take some clamps and clamp this to a flushing beam and traditionally flush it with your, two-handed flusher. You could take, really any sort of knife and carefully do this. I use this ulu. I actually skin my beavers with these two in place of a beaver knife. I got this one from, I think he's on Etsy. Makes really high quality blades. Damascus by Jose, but it's awesome. So what I do is actually I start just kind of slicing here. Once you get sorry, I was concentrating and talking is kind of hard for me, but once you get kind of a ridge going that you've sliced, you can almost push it off sometimes. But this takes a little longer, so I'll do one section here and then just kind of just to give you kind of an example. But now you can kind of that's what I was saying about once you get kind of a ridge there. This is gristly. This is not like the easy fat to push off on, like on the belly of a beaver when you're flushing it. This is definitely hard and gristly. It does not need to be down to bare leather. There can be a little bit of a layer of fat, but you're going to want to get the majority of it off. I salt dry them too. This particular one, maybe because it was in the freezer, but it's not quite as easy as they normally are. But we'll get it done here. Alright, so just continuing on here, but for some reason this side over here is going a lot faster. I had to actually use two knives for this side up here. Weird though. Maybe, but you can see mountain men used to eat that, which I've tried it. I'm not a fat guy, but it's absolutely disgusting. I buried it under coals in a campfire for a couple hours, and the outside was nice and crispy, and the inside was just like you would think cooking pure fat would be. Kind of globs of gelatinous on the inside, crispy on the outside, fat. But back in the day, they had no real way to get fat, and fat was survival when you were living in the Rocky Mountains in the middle of winter. Especially winters like winter of 1826 was supposedly, or maybe it was 30, I think it was 36, was a real bad one. You know, a lot of the mountain men starved. You know, a lot of the wolves were actually getting brazen enough to come right up to cabin doors, and you know, which normally they're pretty scared of people, but even back then. But yeah, so I guess the point of that was that, yeah, the mountain men used to eat the fat. They would also burn the fat sometimes, or make candles out of it, you know, for lighting their cabins, all kinds of stuff. And it wasn't just beaver fat, you know, they do any fat they could, bear fat, you know, probably not deer fat, because deer fat's kind of gross, but the reason you don't need to get this down to like bare leather like you would on like when you're fleshing an animal is it's obviously it's not fur, so it's not going to slip, or at least not nearly as easily. So I just get them dry, salt them, and then when you tan them, you'll actually, after you pickle them, you'll be removing more of the layers anyway, and you get the rest of the fat then, and it's a lot easier after they've been in the pickle. But probably would not, even though I am, recommend using bare hands. I should be wearing gloves really, but it's not like it's a coyote, you know, and you know how you just wouldn't want to cut yourself not wearing gloves. Not that even if you're wearing gloves it would help much, but so there we go. We got the top half pretty much done, as good as it needs to be done. We'll get this bottom half done here, and this you definitely need to be careful because it gets thin down here, kind of like you know, the back of a beaver on their actual back is pretty thick, but the belly can be pretty thin, and vice versa depending on the actual age of the beaver. But yeah, we got pretty close down here, but I'm just being real careful, taking my time here. I'm sure if you get practice at this, you'll get fast. I'm also taking a little bit more time than I normally would. Trying to hope you guys can see this. There's always that real gristly stuff in the middle. You definitely want to get that off. See that stringy? And that's what I'm talking about. That line is okay there, but that meaty part of the line is not. So I've fleshed that off up there where the line still shows, but there's not that actual sinew still on it. Part of the problem I might have been having is I thought this was I had this razor sharp, but I must have not sharpened it after the last thing I skinned. So when I had the video paused earlier, I ran it over my whetstone a couple more times. Maybe that's why this half has been going better or easier than the initial part. Just about done here. That's just that fur, but all right, so that'll be good enough for our purpose. Well, actually, a little bit more. So then what I will do is I will salt it, and non-iodized salt for tanning purposes, and then I will tack that to a piece of plywood. But you can see the majority of the fat is off. I mean, here we got a real thin layer, but that is going to be perfectly fine for tanning purposes. Well, thanks for watching.